From the land down under, with the rock at its centre, comes the little Aussie watchman.
Venezuela, a once flourishing oil-rich nation, in fact one of the richest nations in South America, was plunged into abject poverty through the socio-economic policies of the Hugo Chavez and the subsequent Nicolas Maduro administration. The American right have been using Venezuela as a textbook example of how socialism can take down a nation. Is this fair? What exactly were his policies and why were they considered socialist? When Hugo Chavez initially instituted his economic policies, it seemed to have a great effect on the poorer people. His policies, which redistributed wealth from the rich and gave to the poor, had an immediate positive effect. With it, he was lauded by socialists everywhere. An example is government money support of workplace cooperatives. In order to change the wage-labour model of capitalism, whose number one goal is to make wealth, Venezuela developed cooperatives where the number one goal was to use egalitarian principles, i.e. all people work and paid equally, in order for businesses to put the welfare of people before profit. This immediately had a positive effect on the poor in society. Unemployment dropped from 14.5% to 7.8% over 12 years. Extreme poverty dropped by 70%. With increasing time, however, these cooperatives helped destroy Venezuela's economy and led most of the country into poverty. Socialism meant that the country had less ability to cope with economic hardship. Under US sanctions and the drop of profit from oil exports, the economy of Venezuela was completely destroyed. In order to continue with its spending, the Venezuelan government increased taxation on foreign companies, put in price controls on food and basic commodities to try and halt the rising prices due to rampant inflation. Nationalization of businesses with the taking over of private property was commonplace as the economy started to teeter. Cement production, telephone companies, electrical utilities, supermarkets, food plants, steel companies, coffee manufacturers and banks were taken over by the government or nationalized. So why? Why do socialist policies have the very opposite effect of their intended purpose? The problem with socialism is it does not encourage innovation in industry. It encourages laziness and waste. Free government money for such policies is usually wasted or lost due to fraud. The natural indication for people is to work hard for profit. If they are unable to profit from working hard, they do not. Socialism sounds good by attempting to lift people out of poverty by giving them equal access to work and wages. The problem is that human nature effectively works against the principles of socialism. One of Winston Churchill's quotes reads thus: "Socialism is a philosophy of failure, the creed of ignorance, and the gospel of envy. Its inherent virtue is the equal sharing of misery." Let's examine his quote. Why is socialism a philosophy of failure? It is because it rewards laziness and failure with equal capital to success and hard work. It is a creed of ignorance because it ignores human nature that tends to work and innovate only for reward. It is the gospel of envy because it creates societal propaganda that causes the population to despise people who have wealth. It ignores the fact that those who have wealth create jobs and wealth for others. Its only virtue is the equal sharing of misery because it leads to dictatorship, war, famine, and poverty. Venezuela is a classic example of poverty and semi-dictatorship arising out of socialistic economic policies. Margaret Thatcher also has a well-known quote on socialism. The problem with socialism is that eventually you run out of other people's money. This is the other problem with socialism. In order to enforce equal wealth for all, the government has to develop elements of an authoritarian dictatorship. This can often transform into a fully fledged dictatorship such as Mussolini's Italy or Hitler's Germany. As society begins to fall apart from the economic hardship inflicted upon a country by socialism, civil unrest needs to be quelled using the dictatorship model. Socialism sounds good, but time after time it has proven itself to be harmful to any country that has chosen to follow its creed. In Venezuela, socialism has struck again.